All right, well, this next panel is going to focus on the local team's perspective. We got some really great insight into what the Broncos are doing here, and now I'd like to, give the other local teams the opportunity to delve into kind of what they're doing at their own respective facilities. So we've already heard quite a bit from Mike and Nick, so I'm going to jump over, you guys for just the time being. But I'd like to start with Eric. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you're responsible for at CU, and a little bit about your facilities there, and we'll go down the line that way.
My name's Eric Pelloni. I'm the Assistant Director of BuffVision at the University of Colorado. We have 2 venues that we do video board shows for. So we've got our Folsom Field where we do football, and we've got a video board and some ribbon boards in there. And then we have the Coors Event Center, which we do basketball, volleyball, and men's and women's basketball and volleyball out of, and we have video boards and ribbon boards in there as well. We also do we do all of the live streaming of all of our sports, so we've got 17 different teams in 10 different sports that we're responsible for covering, highlights for the web, streaming live where we can. We have a mobile trailer that also we do our live streaming of soccer and lacrosse. We do other events like the Boulder. We do commencement for the university. This year we streamed the Pac-12 women's golf tournament from the Boulder Country Club, so we took some equipment out there. We were the first school to be able to do that or ever attempt it. So we streamed a couple of holes live and got some pretty good feedback on that. And then we are pretty well integrated with the Pac-12 network, so we do a lot of gathering of just footage and stories and things for them, and sometimes on the rare occasion, they'll take some of our stuff live, like press conferences and things. So we do a lot of streaming and covering events, ENG stuff, putting together packages, and do all of our web content as well.
I'm John Hess. I'm the event presentation manager for the Colorado Rapids out at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, which is probably, I think, another 17 miles away from here. Really, my main responsibility is the door-to-door fan experience, whereas some folks you'll hear from today, they'll focus more on just specifically the video board show, but with Major League Soccer and how it's evolving and how fan experience is really the #1 thing that is getting the millennial crowd out there, my responsibility is a lot focused on your overall door-to-door experience. And then once you're in the stadium, making sure to entertain you during the times that we have. I work with Billi, Capra, and the Altitude broadcast team, some of which I see here, and kind of share their resources that we share with Pepsi Center and the rest of the clubs to produce the best show that we can. It's really a unique time to be in Major League Soccer, entering our 20th year. It is, we like to call it the emerging stock of professional sports. We really have a captured audience in that millennial and Hispanic demographic and are seeing a lot of big growth opportunities. And it's really an interesting time where a lot of club owners are turning and looking at their production and saying we need to grow. So we were fortunate enough to get a nice sizable upgrade from Fitz and Beck, thanks to Billi and kind of some of her work. So the inside of our stadium, kind of the guts of the scoreboard room, has been updated with a nice ROS switcher and some graphics package items. And then we're hoping in the next few years to get a new video board and some new LED items to just help enhance that experience out at Dick's Sporting Goods Park. And we're also fortunate enough to be the host of the 2015 MLS All-Star Game against the Tottenham Hotspur later this July, as well as 2 Olympic qualifying games for CONCACAF. We'll see the U.S. national team here and the Mexican national team here later in October. So it's nice to be kind of considered one of the premier facilities for international soccer and kind of U.S. soccer.
I'm Billi Capra, VP of Broadcast Services for KSE Media and Altitude Sports. I oversee the video production department that serves Altitude, the Avalanche, the Nuggets, the Mammoth, and the Rapids. And I also oversee the control room crews for at Pepsi Center and Dick's Sporting Goods Park. And our experience has been very much like the Broncos here. We had all original equipment from Pepsi Center's build in 1999, and then in 2013 we upgraded.
Great. I'd like to start off with something that Mike and Nick, you guys touched on in your presentation, which is how have your roles evolved and how has your department's roles evolved since you've undergone these renovations? I guess what were you responsible for prior to getting all this new equipment, and how has your role evolved? How is it different now? Billy, if you'd like to start with that, or John.
Well, the roles really haven't changed dramatically, but the size of the crew has dramatically. We had I think 6 full-time staffers in the video department, and now have 14. We have 4 full-time animators and 3 editors, and gonna have a videographer soon. It's just the larger crew too. Also, I mean, when you have all new equipment, you're gonna have to have, obviously, support for that. So.
I think for us, really, the control room upgrade hasn't done much in my role, but having Pepsi Center get their wonderful upgrade, all of their new edit suites, all of their new equipment has actually benefited us exponentially. All of our in-game content, everything, even though we're pushing out to an HD board that gets to see the wonderful Commerce City weather, or not HD, sorry, SD, all of our content looks fantastic, and that's mostly because of the investment that Mr. Kroenke has made in the broadcast services team. We're also fortunate enough to get these skilled, video board operators where other MLS teams aren't so fortunate. They have to source their own employees and fight with other teams in the city. We get to rely on Billy's crew, some of which are working today, here to come work for us. So we're actually in a pretty fortunate position because of their upgrade. Our kind of world has evolved as well.
Okay. And obviously staffing is so huge, so important. Eric, you obviously have a pretty unique approach to staffing since you're dealing with students. If you could tell me a little bit about how BuffVision operates in terms of students versus professional.
Sure. We have a lot of students as well as former students that come back and work for us, as well as a mixture of professionals. Right there, Luke Rosenmeyer was one of our students who now works on Billy's crew, so he still comes back and does work for us. So a lot of our students that go through our program are fortunate enough to get work. The nice thing is we usually get them about sophomore or junior year, and they'll work for 2, maybe 3, 4 years with us before they kind of get out there in the real world and start making real connections, and then we kind of lose them, but we've always got kind of a stream of students. Kind of the hard part is recruiting those students, because a lot of them, we look for kids who who are reliable. So, I feel like one of the nice things about our show is that, when somebody makes a mistake, I think there's the expectation that the show needs to be good, and we do a very good job with the resources we have. And when mistakes are made, you look at them and go, it's a 19-year-old kid that makes a mistake. It's like, you can't, you don't hammer them the way you would a professional. So having a nice balance on your crew where you've got some experienced people that can do some mentoring, and having some students that allow you to kind of learn, and it's always fresh and new, which is kind of fun. Some days it's not as much fun, but we try to have a good time with it. So
thanks for breaking them in.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, so I'd like to bring everybody in at this point and talk about your game day workflows. Obviously, there's a huge difference between football, college basketball, lacrosse, hockey, but talk a little bit about how you prepare for game day and all of the moving pieces that go into that. And we can start with Mike and Nick. You guys get to Sunday, or even before then, obviously, let's say Monday the week before, and what's your preparation like getting ready for football Sunday?
For us, it's, getting ready for game day Sunday starts in the summer and earlier, spring. We're really trying to get as much content and, features done as early as possible, just because we know as it gets closer and closer, there's so much work to be done in preparation for game day. So we are working we try to get with marketing very early, so they get with their sponsorship and make sure, they have all, we give them deadlines, so that ideally we get the majority of the stuff, come early summer. Of course, that's never the case on a lot of these different sponsors, but we do our best to do. So, we're spending the summer, trying to crank out any features we can, videos, graphics that can be built early. So, but then as we get closer to the actual game, that first preseason game, it's a pretty big, it's a big big push. There's a lot of work involved, late nights, long weeks, just creating all the content that needs to be, loaded in on game day. And we're producing, so there's 3 of us mainly that are content creators, and we're cranking away on the graphics. Actually, 4 of us now, sorry. So we're creating the videos, creating the graphics, and then we'll just get everything loaded in, before the week before game day. Sometimes it's not all night, but a very late night on that Friday or Saturday leading into a Sunday game. So I don't know if you want to add to the actual game day.
Sure. Kind of what Nick was saying, where we begin, way before the season begins. I remember when I started in 2013, we wanted player involvement in what we were doing, so we needed to sit the players down, and whether they had reads to do or just pump up things for the video board. So that training camp in 2013, it was late July of 2013, we sat the guys down over a 3 or 4 day period, and a certain quarterback came in and said, "Why are we doing this now?" And they blamed the guy from the Yankees. And so when we got to the next year, we sat the guys down in April when OTAs began. And that certain quarterback felt a little bit better, and we got him for all 4 minutes. And so really, it takes a lot of preparation. It takes a lot of planning ahead. Nick, mentioned about meeting with marketing and our sponsorship group. It's really having them get on the ball super early, that if they want a sponsor included in a read, June and July is too late. So we started with our guys in April, and we did 3 different waves over a week period, one in April, one in May, and one in June. And we just finished doing 75 interviews with these guys. There's a certain wide receiver that hasn't signed his contract with us yet, so we do have to do one come training camp. But, we hit them on content not only for the video board, but for the web as well. So there's nothing like asking a guy in April to read a Christmas greeting, or the playoffs are here. Those are always fun. But really, it takes a lot of preparation way ahead of time. And the league helps with that, in that we have initiatives, weekly initiatives that we know are coming. So, whether it's a salute to service or a crucial catch or fan appreciation or homecoming or ring of fame, we know these things are coming, so it helps us in preparation.
Eric?
Yeah, I think similar to what these guys are doing with our football, everybody gets back in August, so we start with the meetings with the marketing crew and getting together all of the sponsored features that are going to happen. There's 3 of us full-time, so we'll produce all of that content. In addition to having football, we also have volleyball starting at the same time. And then once November hits, we try to do a lot of our basketball prep in June while the student athletes are in for camps, to get all of the board pump up things and everything, because once November starts, we go into having 5 teams going at once. And unfortunately, everybody plays on the weekend. They don't spread it out for us. So we'll go from having a game on a Friday night, and then so we'll have soccer Friday, volleyball Friday night, football Saturday, and then another soccer game on Sunday, another volleyball match on Sunday, and then basketball starts. So you'll have a Tuesday basketball game. So you'll end up with 5 or 6 events within the span of 7 days usually, or sometimes double headers. So so we start really producing all of our content in August, and then when the season starts in September, we're pretty well rolling. For us, a lot of things will just come up as they get sold throughout the year, or there'll be things sold specifically for, like, the sales and marketing people won't have something done for basketball, so we can't pre-produce any of that until right before the season starts in November as it comes up. So we kind of end up with a lot of things like that, where it'll be a little more last minute, so our production and concepting kind of rolls throughout the year, because a lot of it just hasn't happened yet.
In our end, it's kind of similar to Major League Baseball, where soccer players aren't out in January, February training in Colorado. It's just not going to happen. So they head off to Tucson. So we really get a finite amount of time with the team. This year it was February. and then we had to do another reshoot in March, and I think we had to do another reshoot in April because of some sponsor obligations, but we try and get everything knocked out in February and then just work for that whole month while Billy's team has 3 other teams going on at the same time. And then actually you asked about game day preparation. Right now, I think would be our weekly meeting with the broadcast team for the upcoming game. So I plan on talking to you guys afterwards. But really it's kind of just getting, like everybody else said, as much as you can in the can at the beginning when the players report, and then filling in as you go.
And for us, it's kind of a never-ending cycle. We will be working on Avalanche to get them launched, the season launched in September, and then once that's done, we'll focus on Nuggets and get them launched. And then while we're still supporting Avalanche and Nuggets, we'll start on the Mammoth and then the Rapids. And you just like everyone else, you have to establish deadlines and encourage sponsorship and marketing to get their requests in early, and just an ongoing management.
And Billy, is there any difference in the strategy or philosophy between the different teams that you work with?
Somewhat. I mean, some of them are a little more demanding, and the whole approval process is kind of difficult, more difficult with some than others. And you have more access to the players with certain sports than you do with others. And that makes a big difference.
And for everyone, how does the success of the team on the field affect your roles, or does it affect your role?
Yeah, of course it does.
Sure. Life is great when you're winning. We can do no wrong. Really, it helps big time. You know, I mean, when the fans are happy, when the team is happy, you know, the crowd's going nuts, our jobs are a lot easier. It's funny, you know, we talked about this voice of the fan, and we get the report that they do on this expert review, and they happen to come out to the Miami game last year, and we didn't have a really good first half. I think we were down by 21 or something, and you could see, and they have this graph where the fan involvement was, and you know, we were down here, and then all of a sudden, third and fourth quarter, we start scoring, we come back and win, and all of a sudden the fans are, you know, up through the roof there. So, you know, it is essential, but also it's also our job to continue to entertain even when the team's not winning. So, you know, it's a good problem to have when they are winning.
I think that somebody that I used to work for always said, if we're not having fun, nobody is. So I think, especially with some of the challenges that we have in Boulder, is we've got really a different set of fans for different teams. We have the general fans of CU Athletics, and we've got our football fans who are probably also our basketball fans, but might not be our women's basketball fans or our volleyball fans or our women's soccer fans. So you've got different groups that you're doing different shows for. So some lend themselves to having a lot more fun or a lot more interaction with student athletes. Women's basketball, they love being involved in doing stuff. Men's basketball, hey, I need you for 5 minutes. You'll get them for 2.5, and it won't be a good 2.5 minutes. So it just depends on the team. You know, football, obviously, when you've got so many different guys, you pick a handful that are willing to help you out, and then they're kind of your go-to guys for doing stuff. But just doing a show, you know, football for us is tough. We have 6 games at home, that's it. And they only play 12, so the season's not very long. So the amount of time you actually focus on that, even though it's one of our bigger sports, it's one of our most time-consuming in terms of production, yet there's less games. Basketball is just much easier because there's just less inventory to do. So, and you know, the other thing too is basketball might be good, football is not, we all know that. Women's basketball might be doing really well, but your average fan for us doesn't care. They look at our football team, and that's the perception of us, whether we're winning or losing. And, you know, winning fixes all of your problems. You sell more tickets, people are engaged, people are excited, and everybody looks like a genius, and you're doing the exact same thing you were doing, just the team wins.
It's no secret that it's been kind of a rough couple years for the Colorado Rapids. Obviously, we've not had the most remarkable record as of late, but in our role, you know, you're not going to see an MLS presentation throwing up make some noise graphic like you would for other sports, just because it's not the sport. We rely on the supporters culture and kind of the different supporters groups to kind of drive that fan presentation, which is, in my position, very difficult, especially when that supporters group is not holding up their end, or if they, you know, they're fans too. It's tough for them. It's tough for the front office. So for us, it's really just driving home that storyline of what the club is doing, where we're headed, trying to keep people engaged with the club, and really know that the sun will come out tomorrow. We're headed in the right direction. We're building same things that the front office says. You know, we're building the right policies and kind of structure. So for us, it's really about just telling the story of the club and our acquisitions and the players, and focusing on the good, and hoping that the supporters kind of drive some more of that for us, because that's kind of uniquely what soccer is at this point. It's definitely a challenge, no doubt, but it's a fun challenge.
When the teams are playing well, that you're going to have the sponsors are more likely to request more, and then I'm sorry, I'm going to be on cold messes. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'd like to touch on that relationship with broadcasters that you guys briefly touched on, that, you know, competition with the broadcast experience. First off, Eric, I know you guys have a kind of unique situation at CU where you're both running the video board show, but you're also dealing with Pac-12 networks and broadcasting a lot of the Olympic sports. I guess, how do you talk a little bit about how you prepare for those two very different but also very similar roles?
It's been great having the Pac-12 network as a partner, just because they provide us a lot of the technology so for the individual schools, you know, we got a new control room 3 years ago, and it completely changed how we do everything, and it's awesome, and we've got great stuff. But when it comes to doing all of our live streaming, where we had struggled in the past trying to find a provider that the quality was good, but it was cost effective, and having the right hardware, well, because they fund that piece. That's something that the Pac-12 network provides for every school, the outlet to stream. So they have a third-party vendor that the streaming goes through, and then we just have a piece of hardware, and now we have the ability to do multi-bit rate streams in HD. They look great. They look good on a tablet. They look good on your phone. You know, it looks good on a computer. So we have the ability to get a lot more reach with a quality product. So that's been very helpful. And whenever the Pac-12 network is not broadcasting something, then we go ahead and we have the right to stream it. So our advantage is we have the equipment to do it, so we stream a lot more than other schools. So it's not, there is no mandate, so there is no, you have to do this much, or you could, you know, the only limitation is we don't really do anything with football. We stream the weekly press conferences, and we do the post-game press conferences. For men's basketball, all of our home games are televised now on either one of the Pac-12 regional networks or their other partners, or, you know, and then most of like volleyball and women's basketball conference are, but the non-conference games, they're ours. So we take pretty much our board show, marry it with our radio announcers, and that's what we send out. So we don't overproduce it. We don't put a lot of resources into it. We just take the board show and the radio call and put it out there, because at the end of the day, there's the cost of putting together just the stream for the internet and putting a bunch of money into it. When you go, okay, you're going to do the same show for soccer that you are women's basketball or volleyball or the occasional men's basketball game. Well, you know, even though football gets a lot of views, and you know, a soccer stream won't get that many views, you can't put a lot of money into it. So, you know, we still stream it, and it's still a high quality product, or the women's basketball game is still a high quality show, but we keep the cost down, because at the end of the day, if 200 people watch one thing and 1,000 people watch something else, you still have to do a quality job, but you can't spend more money on one versus the other, knowing that, you know, you take the resources you have and you just get a quality product out and not overdo it.
I think for us, it's an exciting time with soccer, and I sound like a broken record, but we just signed an 8-year deal with ESPN and Fox, really focused around destination television. So Friday nights are nationally broadcast games on Unimos and Univision Deportes, and then Saturday nights are kind of all the regional nights, so that's when we would be live on Altitude, which obviously is a Kroenke entity, and then on Sundays it's Fox Soccer Sunday, which is also on Fox Sports 1 and ESPN. So it's really been kind of a fun time seeing those national broadcasters come in. Our home opener was picked up not only nationwide on Sky Sports, Yes Network out in New York because of New York City FC is on Altitude, and then over across the pond it was picked up by Sky Sports and a couple other nationally broadcast networks over in England. So for us, it's really a great time to start working with those broadcasters like you guys had spoke about. With Altitude, it's a fantastic relationship. We work directly with the producers and our director of broadcasting who's in-house to make sure that we share as much as possible, as well as, when we have our media day, we're sharing content and kind of putting them in the rotation of getting that content as well.
Mm-hmm. And for anyone else who'd like to jump in, how do you balance that working with the broadcasters, but at the same time, you want those fans in the venue. You don't want them at home watching on their TV. How do you work with them, but yet are you also competing with them?
You don't give them too much. No. No, you work with them, and they have their job to do, and we have our job to do. And often, they're running their show, we're running ours. But there are things that we can do for each other. I mean, there are teams out there like the Dallas Cowboys, and I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to be doing it with 3D replay, in which they share those resources, with the broadcasters. We do the same thing with certain camera feeds. The broadcaster has our camera feed. We take theirs. Pat talked about that earlier for replays. So you play nice in the sandbox together, and you respect each other, and it's just nice to be able to be on that same playing field with them. It wasn't that way for a lot of years back in the day with the scoreboard groups, and we've all evolved now that we have people. As a matter of fact, our game day director, he directs our broadcasts for our 4 preseason games. So even in crew, you're taking folks that are part of the broadcast as well.
And I think for us, butts and seats equals revenue, which helps us out a lot, but at the same time, we're also trying to recruit student athletes from all over the country. So for the Pac-12 network, being a nationwide network, and with our reach with streaming for even the Olympic sports, it helps our coaches. So as much as we need to have that balance, having our brand out there and being known and having people have the ability to watch our games who are not in the state of Colorado is huge for us, because we need that advantage when it comes to recruiting, because that's a big part of it. Is you want to get a kid to come here from the state of New York, well, mom and dad want to know, can I still watch you play? Mm-hmm. So that's a big part for us as well with the recruiting aspect. That's, I think, a little bit different. Also, we get a big chunk of revenue, obviously, in the revenue share with the Pac-12 network, so that helps us out a lot as well. And our struggle with getting butts in the seats is that Boulder's a very small community. We have a lot of different teams, and so we're competing with you guys when it comes to the bigger sports and that dollar. And I also need you to drive from Denver to Boulder to come watch a basketball game.
I think kind of mirroring his comment, for us, if you're watching a game at home on Altitude, it's fantastic, but we're going to provide you something in stadium that you're not going to get from watching at home, and I think that's all of our goals. For us, as the Rapids, we love it if you engage with our brand anyway, so if you're watching at home, great. You'll see what you're missing out by not being in the stadium. So we like to work with Altitude. We do share camera feeds. We actually use their main game cam, so we can free up our other 3 cameras to do kind of some of our other shots that we want. And then, kind of like he said, we're competing with the fans that think that Commerce City is a far distance from downtown Denver, which in reality it's pretty close, and hopefully here with this new light rail it will be even closer. So for us, it's really about a relationship with Altitude and our broadcast partners, and making sure that we're both getting what we need out of the game day.
Well, and our company is unique in that we do have a regional sports network as part of our company. So we do share as much content and material as we can, camera feeds and such, but we do each have a separate production to produce. So.
And I think it's nice too in the sense of, you know, with the mini teams going on, and Luke gets to come shoot stuff for us. With Altitude, we get to steal some of their staff at times. When we need a freelancer, they're the first person that Billi goes to. Or when they need help, you know, it's really a very good partnership where we try and help each other out with content, stories, and even staffing.
Okay. Before we continue, are there any questions? Going right there.
Hi, Carlos from Waza. A question on how mobile devices fit into your stadium experience and either now or strategy go forward. And I guess maybe two dimensions to that. So one, is anyone thinking about fan-generated content, right? So mobile devices, you know, have video capture, obviously, pretty robust these days. And then the flip side is enhancing the experience, you know, of a fan in the seat, getting different angles. We talked about all the various feeds and content and replays and, you know, that opportunity to enhance the in-stadium experience through their mobile device as well. So interested to hear perspectives.
As Jeremy mentioned in the last session, we use the InsCam, so we are providing, you know, additional feeds that they're not getting, like some replays. I forget how many looks we're providing on the replays, like maybe 3 looks. And then, you know, we try to give them, you know, we're always looking at new ways to give them content that they can't see, whether it's maybe, you know, a shot from our tunnel camera of the guys coming out of the locker room, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's definitely opportunity there to give them that. I don't know if I'm trying to think what other things were.
As far as fan-generating content, you know, that's something we're looking into. We in 2013, we're doing our playoff run into the Super Bowl. We did a whole. It was set to Best Day of My Life by American authors, and we did a whole thing in which the fans provided both photos and video of themselves, you know, being excited, celebrating, you know, Broncos victories, and it was something that started on the web, and then we took and ran in stadium, and that's kind of a difference between, again, football and say some of the other sports in which, you know, you have, you know, say 3-4 games in a week. You know, we're able to build a lot of that stuff up on the web, you know, leading up to game day, and then be able to run that stuff out on game day. But as far as, you know, fan-generated content that day, we're not doing anything yet, but we are definitely interested in listening.
Yeah, there are teams that are doing that kind of thing where they're taking, you know, iPhone video submissions right away, loading it into the replay, and then, you know, playing it out. I'm not exactly sure how they're, if it's part of a larger package or how they're doing it exactly, but it's definitely something of interest and something that can definitely be done, and I think we'll need to look at that here soon. So.
One of the things that we do with our fans is we have them submit pictures, and we do, so that is an in-game feature, so people will submit pictures during the game, and that's how we get a lot of fan interaction. We're always having meetings of how we can take their content and integrate it. Last year, our football ticket spot was photos from fans that came in via that promotion, so we utilized that to kind of show people having their experience at the game. It's to the point now where people, you know, photos start showing up when people arrive. They don't even wait for the, you know, in the first half you do the prompt, in the second half you do the feature. Pictures are just coming in now even before people are in the seats, so that's kind of cool. As far as we have a mobile app, but as far as getting them extra video content, the challenge for us is infrastructure. Right now, we don't have wireless for the stadium for the masses to be able to get that bandwidth to their mobile device. So that's a big challenge. And for you know, for Folsom Field, which is a 100-year-old venue, you know, that's the other challenge too. Is there's only certain places you can put things to make sure that you reach the entire bowl.
For us, this is a really kind of unique opportunity for growth. We've built a framework to start heading in that direction. This year we brought in Richard Clark from Arsenal. He was in charge of all of Arsenal's digital content, took them from where they were to now being one of the top 3 teams in all of digital media in the entire world. So we brought him across. He's built his own team of digital content producers. We built out what we call the Adidas boot room, where we're driving content every day from our players. So we've got the framework on all of that side. MLS fans are incredibly digitally native. Everything on their phone, everything social is kind of their world. So with that information, we've started to build the framework around it, and I expect here within the next year or so, we're going to start diving even deeper into using digital in our in-game. We just invested in a system that allows 4G wireless to work well out at the park, about probably 50 to 60 antennas that they affixed around the stadium to allow your cell phone to work while you're at the game. So for us, the next step is making that link between the fan's phone and the video board. And now with the new upgrade, we kind of have the framework, and we're evaluating partners to take it to that next step.
At Pepsi Center, very similar to what Eric said, we have had a lot of success with the text to screen and the photos to screen, but we also have not had Wi-Fi in the building until this next season. And then we have recently put together a social media department who is going to focus on these types of things.
Great. Any other questions? Oh, right back there.
Got a question about the two new mobile apps that are coming in and gaining a lot of popularity, and that would be Meerkat and Periscope. Just like to hear your thoughts and views. Bonnaroo just finished up in Manchester, Tennessee. We had about 185,000 people down there. We have a close relationship with a lot of the carriers. They ran. They don't run a small cell or distributed antenna system at that event. They actually use cows or cell on wheels. But the response, or just the people using these two apps, were, it's coming. And I know MLB's kind of said some things about it, but I'd just like to hear your all's thoughts.
I think for us, the challenge with things like that is that that's where we are slightly limited by our partnership with the Pac-12 network. So when it comes to technologies like that, they will bring that to us, and then we will roll it out across all 12 teams before we just do it. I know that one of the big things that I don't think we've really touched on is social media and having a presence everywhere now. We just had a meeting a couple weeks ago where, now we're going to have a Snapchat account because we have to reach that group. We'll probably end up doing, Periscope was mentioned in that, and doing some things like that where we could do live hits when we're out and about, because you can do it from a cell phone. And so all the social media stuff, we have an editor at every game. So we've got a shared storage solution. So as we just ingest straight to disk, we have an editor. So something happens, they're clipping stuff out, putting it on social media, or if it's the photos coming in, they're cutting that package, or if it's the play of the game package, we constantly have somebody editing features even that day, whether it's a live hit out, at the food booth that we're showcasing something, they'll shoot it, bring it back, we're cutting it, and we're putting it into the game. So a lot of those things that we're trying to get as much stuff out immediately in shorter chunks, as opposed to post-game, here's 3 minutes of highlights of the game. Well, you might only care about one touchdown or one dunk or one thing. And then the other thing is when we go out and we do like our radio shows and things, that would be a great application for Periscope, where you don't have to have a lot of technology, you just have to have a good Wi-Fi connection on your phone.
I think, to answer your question, the league is still trying to get their arms around it. There were teams who immediately embraced it and were doing some pretty cool stuff, and then all of a sudden we all got this mandate that said, whoa, let's put on the brakes here. So I think, stay tuned, because the league is trying to really figure out the best way to utilize Periscope. Obviously, there are large contracts, TV contracts that there are concerns with. So the question is, what will they allow and what won't they allow? So I think it's still evolving.
Great. Well, I think that's out of time. So thank you guys so much.